How do you do fixed firm pose? In Sanskrit, Supta Vajrasana. That is what we're going to be talking about today. Hi everyone, if this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Jimmy Barkan. Been practicing hot yoga since 1980. Was Bikram's most senior teacher for over 18 years. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell, hit the like button anytime you're enjoying this video. If you've been watching my other videos, I've said many times that Vishnu Ghosh and Bikram were both notorious for not directly translating the Sanskrit. Supta Vajrasana does not mean fixed firm. When you're in that position, it's called firm position. So somehow they said you're fixed in the firm position. Who knows? Other styles of yoga call it Supta Vajrasana or reclining hero. So we call it Supta Vajrasana. The Vajra is the diamond or a lightning or thunderbolt, and it's also a weapon. In Indic tradition, it's considered to be one of the most powerful weapons in the universe. Supta Vajra, that's what we name this pose. So we're gonna head over to the studio with Barkan teacher Iuliia and go into detail on how to do this position from beginning to advanced. Now, I recently did a video, you can check this out, on the Diamond series where we briefly touched on this pose, but I wanted to get to it in more detail with this position because it's very significant. Why is it significant? If you have a knee issue, you don't want to avoid it. It's not about the full position. It's not, I have a knee issue, so I can't do the pose. No, you want to find a position that you can maintain. I know there's a position, you come way forward, and you'll see when we get to the studio with Iuliia, you can go way forward, put your hands on the floor, that's going to take all the pressure off your knees and find your starting position. And now your only goal is to find just the next inch, just the next centimeter. And if you are injured, you don't want to go even close to your edge. You don't want to go to the point where you're irritating the injury. You want to go to the point you can maintain so you can soften the hip flexors. And by softening the hip flexors, that'll help to heal the knees. I did this video recently on working with the Miami Dolphins. They all had multiple knee problems. They trusted me. They did this pose and it helped their knees significantly. So without further ado, let's head over to the studio with Barkan teacher Iuliia. Get started. So here we are. Let's look at Supta Vajrasana. In the Bikram world, it's fixed firm. But the literal translation, what I use is reclining diamond or reclining thunderbolt, even reclining lightning. Thunderbolt and lightning is sort of the same thing. Vajra. In the yoga tradition, hatha yoga tradition, we aspire to create the Vajra Deha, or the diamond body, brightening the aura. So if you have a knee issue, which we talked about in the intro, a lot of people are going to do this. And what you're doing is bypassing the whole concept of yoga. Instead, I'm going to have Iuliia bring her leg back in. And by the way, what the wonderful assist of Iuliia, who's been on many of our videos before. So let's say, come back forward a little bit more, bring your, stay up there. Let's say she's having a tough time, just stay up here like that, with the position. And if I was a teacher, I'd say to her, and then she goes, I can't do this, I have a knee problem. I would say, okay, come back for a second. I would say, can you do this? Can you separate your hands, bring your feet apart, and just stay up here? And most of the time, people will say, yeah, that I can do. I say, well, great, because now you're doing it. This is your starting position. This is where I want you to start from. This will be your starting position. Pretty much most people can do this. If there's still a problem with the front part of your knee, you can take a towel, bunch it up, and you can kneel on the towel. But for now, let's just assume she doesn't have that issue. And from here, she's slowly going to work her way back 1 inch, 1 centimeter at a time. And now she can start slowly working her hands back 1 centimeter, 1 inch at a time. And let's say this is a little too much for your knee. Your hips are tight. You come back up again, and that would be your starting position. And if you have an injury, you never want to go close to your edge. You want to stay in a position you can maintain and breathe into the position. Find a position you can stay in that's not going to irritate any injury that you have. The hands are going to take the pressure off the knees. Now the next modification, if you can go, even if you have a little more range of motion than having to stay forward, use a block. And she can sit on the block. She can even sit on the block all the way up here like this. That could be the first modification. And now come back into a seated position. You'll just sit on that block. And you would just sit there and breathe. Or you could take the block this direction and sit on the block. If you're sitting on the block, there's no way you're going to be able to go back. In fact, if you went back, it would be injurious to your whole body. So you're not going to go back into the position. You're just going to sit on the block and breathe. And as you breathe into the position, the hip flexors are going to soften. And as the hips soften, it takes all the pressure off the knees. That's the key. We're going to loosen up the hips, and that's how we're going to heal the knees. Stay here and breathe. So now we're going to slowly work our way back, 1 inch at a time, 1 breath at a time, 1 centimeter at a time, and see how far you can go. If you don't have the resistance, the next step, you're going to grab your heels, and the first thing you're going to do is touch your right elbow, if you can, on the floor. Stay there. Second, your left elbow. Maybe that's as far as you can go. Stay there and breathe. I don't mind if you open the knees a little bit. I'm going to talk about this too in the other video. What you don't want to do, and they have you do this in the Bikram world, which I'm not real crazy about. I don't want you to open your knees all the way out past your hips, because as soon as you do that, you're bypassing the hip flexors. You're no longer stretching the hip flexors. That's the whole concept of the pose. So I don't mind if you separate your knees a little bit, but as long as they're no further out than the width of your hips, because now your hip flexors are getting the stretch. So now she's got her elbows. The next step is her head. Just the head. So her elbows, head. Next step, if you can go further, maybe you're going to stay here, but next step would be chin down, back of the neck on the floor. And the final stage, the elbows come behind your head. You're going to grab each elbow, the knees come together, and the final position, if you can get to this full position, the final position, which is the key for every single pose, is effortlessness. Complete relaxation. And some people like to stretch their elbows out more because they want to get a better stretch. You have to understand, if you found an effortlessness in the pose, you've mastered the position. You don't have to always look to find something that's going to be more dynamic or something that's going to be, you're going to feel it more. If you can completely relax in this position, then you've mastered the pose. Think of it in half tortoise. Half tortoise, most people can just master that position because it's an effortless position. It's the same thing with every pose. This is the full position, complete relaxation. There it is. And now how do you come out of it? The same way you went down. You're going to grab your heels, push up on your elbows, and up you go. And in the Barkan world, because we don't do Shavasana right afterwards, you go right to downward dog so we can stretch the legs out so we can get all that circulation back into the legs. We've got to complete the pose. In the Bikram world, they have you turn in Shavasana, which does the same thing. Here we go right to downward dog to get the circulation back into the legs. And that is Supta Vajrasana, fixed firm, or Reclining Diamond. So that's our episode for today. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Hit the notification bell. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button. It really helps out the channel, and I appreciate that. And I will see you at the next video. Bye, everyone.